What's up, everyone? So I am getting some, basically some discussions happening on the forums, and there's a lot of people that are saying that they are a little confused as to how to scale up this build, how to scale into it, how to league start, and just basically need some beginner-friendly advice on it. So basically, I want to take and go in here and just really quick answer some questions that I've been getting a lot of. First off, I do not have the gems updated in Path of Building yet because Path of Building does not have it. So it's still showing my previous setup after the major changes in 3.6. I also have the outdated 3.5 Path of Building for anyone who wants to reference how I scaled it. You've got to click 2 spoilers to be able to get there, so hopefully that will deter people from getting there. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of questions about just basically is the linkages going to work with this? What are we going to do differently? And also I've gotten a lot of comments both on Reddit and my videos and the build guide as to what you would do with Energy Shield Leech Gem. Now it is really, really strong, so I will be updating, letting everybody know where that's going to fit in and if it's going to fit in. Controlled Destruction gives us a 100% reduced critical strike chance, but it gives us 44% more damage. That more multiplier is absolutely amazing, which is why we ran Controlled Destruction for this build for so long. With that said, the Energy Shield Leech Gem is absolutely phenomenal. It is way, 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 way better on an Eldritch Battery build, and that is going to be where it's actually just literally just peachy keen, like slots in like butter. But if you do want to socket it into our build and try it out, it will give you additional critical strike chance just because it is replacing Controlled Destruction, and you should actually plan on having that up when you are not leeching. And the reason I say that is because leech is much, much, much shorter this league. I do not know if you can trigger leech when you are at full energy shield, and despite the fact that we do get hit a lot and we are, you know, under some pressure from that, the leech that we experience, I'm not entirely sure how long that will be lasting and whether or not the leech mechanics will allow it to give us that 39% more damage as a rule when we are casting. But one way or another, I think that you will socket it in right in place of Controlled Destruction. I do have a feeling that just like Controlled Destruction has a 1% more that goes up with levels, I think it is GGG's intention to probably have the levels go up as well. So you will want a 21-20 gem, or alternatively a 21-23 gem is fine too. But either way, you're going to want to max out that front end, and if you can, max out the back end. So either way, a lot of changes were made to the build, guys, so I really need you guys to make sure you watch the last video explaining the changes and making sure you understand it, because if you try to play it with the previous setup, this league, it will not have the damage sufficient to be able to carry you through. You will need to scale up some of your gems, and really just in general, it's going to... It was severely buffed. Like, we had tons of buffs happening, and make sure you take a look at this paste BIM here. The Path of Building passive tree was updated, as well as I try to do as good a job representing what those gems are going to do, and that's going to help you guys out an awful lot. I do need to update this with Theorycraft 3.7 million Shaper DPS, or nearly 4 million, because it is going to have more damage, and also it's going to have more survivability. In our Path of Building, we did find that we are going to have about 9,400 EHP. We picked up 1,000 EHP from the tree. So we're going to go to our hideout here, and I'm going to talk everybody who is new through basically scaling and how to be able to scale this build and what you need to use to be able to do that. So we're just going to take out some gear here, and we are going to try to talk you through how we're going to do this, and you know what links you're going to use and when and how. And I was not prepared at all for this video, as far as like I did not prep anything in advance, so please keep that in mind. And then the rest of the flasks should be relatively easy to come by. So let's go through this here really quick. Let's see, I believe. Speedy. No. All right, guys. So basically, what is going to come of this this leveling for us with the build? How are we going to do it? And basically, what are the items we're going to be using primarily to be able to scale this build significantly? So I'm going to pull out a few items here that I want to actually highlight and make sure that you guys take note of, and I want to be sure that you guys are able to get the right setup with this. So basically, we are looking at items that are going to start really, really low level is ideally when I'm sure you guys want to see how we get through the low levels and what we have to do that. Obviously, the tabula rasa is going to be in the chest. Okay, you're going to be playing a tabula rasa and you're going to be doing a hybrid build. You are going to be reserving your mana very stringently on only a few of these auras to be able to actually get your damage scaling. Most likely you're going to try to get, if you can, you're going to try to get hatred and zealotry included very, very early, but because you are going to be shy on mana, especially right away, you are going to want to make sure that as you're leveling, you're using, especially if you've got your 6-link tabula rasa in your chest, you are going to want to actually be doing some investment actually in getting mana on your jewels and being able to get mana regeneration. That is a very, very good idea. One way to help with your mana, which is available right off the bat, is a Parandus Signet Ring. The Parandus Signet Ring gives you mana, it gives you mana regeneration rate, it gives you an additional experience, and then it really, really helps with those early game, trying to make sure that you get some 2% increased intelligence for each unique item equipped. This is by far and away one of the best starting items you can get in terms of any build. They normally go for about 5C though, so these are actually quite expensive, and unless you're dropping a divination gem or a divination orb or something of the like, you are going to struggle very, very hard to be able to get the Parandus Signet immediately. But as soon as you can afford it, this is what I would recommend absolutely for socketing in for a ring to be able to get your mana high enough so that you are content with it. Now, other than that, we do have another item. The Darkness Enthroned is an absolutely excellent item. This is typically really good if you can buy some cheap Abyssal Jewels and spend minimal money crafting them just to get Energy Shield, Life, and the like, potentially cold damage spells. Anything you can get in these gems is very good. This will help you get your resistance in check, and it will definitely help you get everything else that you need to do this league in check. Now, of course, as far as beginners, we said, you know, that a couple people were novices or actually brand new and beginning the league. You are going to want a gold rim leather cap. That is absolutely one of the top priorities. I would definitely recommend getting a gold rim long before you get the Parandus. Don't really pay attention to the rolls. I mean, obviously, if you can get one that's 40% elemental res, you're going to try to do it. You will want as good a setup in terms of the gem setups as possible. I do have to pick this up really quick, guys. I am sorry about that, but I'm going to mute myself for one quick hot second, and then after I step away, it'll just give me 30 seconds. All right, we're back. So, basically, guys, Gold Rim is going to be an absolutely essential scaling damage item. You are going to need to do it. You're definitely going to want a life flask in here as well. That is very, very important. But ultimately, until you get up to the levels where you can afford the, obviously, Aziri's Promise, that's only 1 chaos, and you're just going to sock it in whatever you can. Make sure you still pay attention to the elemental damage as extra chaos damage effect. And the Wise Oak is probably the first flask you're going to buy after. Well, actually, I don't know. It's a toss-up between these two. Both of these are actually equal. I think it would come down to the price, so I think the Aziri's Promise will be the first flask you buy. Now, other than that, your Prism Guardian, you're not going to be able to get this equipped until you're actually in pretty far into the league. So you're going to have to get to mapping basically to level 68, and I normally start mapping probably around level 66, but you are going to want to get the Prism Guardian shield at around level 66. That is going to be very important for you. Other options in terms of belts, one thing you can do instead of equipping the Darkness Enthroned and using jewels with that, the other option that you have here is actually a Bated Breath. You have access to the Bated Breath at level 22. This is a really strong really strong belt for any build that's scaling hybrid resistances, which you're going to have to, because part of leveling this build, you're going to have to absolutely have your Bated Breath as part of it. Your Callista's Samite gloves. These are absolutely amazing gloves. You will love them. They are great. They are very hard to want to replace. And even the gloves I currently have barely beat them in Energy Shield. And truthfully, these gloves I literally only got for the faster casting and the blind. I wanted both of those on these items. And with the changes, we do not actually need both of those on the gloves. So Callista's Grace are going to be your gloves. You're going to pick these up. These are about a chaos, I think. They're probably going to be extraordinarily good. Other than that, wands that I did actually end up using, obviously you're going to start probably with a Life Sprig. Life Sprigs are extremely good. You're going to actually want to have 2 of them. And you're going to basically start using Frostbolt to be able to scale. The reason you want to use Frostbolt or Freezing Pulse, either one of those is going to work for you, but I kind of like Freezing Pulse actually a little bit better. It just seems to be a little bit better. The reason I like Life Sprigs a lot is A, because they're extremely cheap. They're going to give you +1 level to socketed skills, and this is where your skills are going to be socketed in when you're leveling and when you're going. And then as you're going, you're going to be using that the Freezing Pulse or the Frostbolt, one of the two, and scaling this as much as you can with the Life Sprig. You will want to dual wield them, and then eventually you're going to upgrade that into a wand that perhaps is going to give you a little bit more spell damage, a little bit more cold damage, but basically you're going to play around in Path of Building if you can, and just basically import your build, Control C on the wand, and then copy it into Path of Building, and then see as soon as your build actually recognizes that your wand that you find is better, then you are going to socket that in. Boy, oh boy, I'm going to run out of space here to be able to do this because I don't have... Whew, I don't know what to do. Anyway, unfortunately, this is a remove-only tab that I was using at the end of the season, so that's very unfortunate. So yeah, you're basically looking for your stats. You're looking for spell damage on these. You're looking to flat to spells. You don't want to have physical damage necessarily, but you're not doing maps, so don't worry about it. If it's physical to spells, it's not that big of a deal. Increased cold damage is really good. Increased lightning damage is fine. Global crit multi, global crit chance is really good. And every wand that I use leveling after Life Sprig, like Life Sprig was my first wand that I wanted to grab. If you're obviously, trying to do it quickly and you're trying to move through these first stacks very quickly, you're probably truthfully not going to actually be picking up the Life Sprigs. They really are just a leveling, convenience, quality of life thing. When push comes to shove, these are really not that important. One of the things you are extraordinarily starved for in this build is stats. So something that will make your life so much better as well is about a 10C probably Astromenace. Now these vary throughout the league. Let me turn on D&D here. DKD. It's like Donkey Kong did away with you. Alright, so what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to take and put on an Astromentis at some point. Get a very low rolled one. You don't need anything too impressive. The Astromentis is going to provide you with desperately needed stats that you're going to need to have in this build. Other than that, just get some rings with some resistances, try to pick them up as you go, and then I think the first time that I started kind of struggling was when I was in that level 48, 52 range. I started really struggling with both my resistances and just in general staying, above board. Now you are going to take and you are going to socket your traps in. You're going to have Bane. Bane is going to be huge. I need to still basically make the outline of when you can pick up spells because all of that's going to be available tomorrow, and I do need to actually figure that out. We are going to want to be picking up the spells as we go, and we are going to want them for the quest rewards as much as possible. You're probably going to want a phase run to run through some stuff. Other than that, guys, you know, really, you've got to just run it like as if you're playing any other build. So we've got the Callista's Grace that we have at 55, but if you're looking for a better item that you can equip a little bit sooner, or not a better item, but a decent item that you can equip a little bit sooner, these Loctanial Caress Iron Gauntlets are absolutely amazing. They're very good. You've got your Wanderlust Wool Shoes. I cannot speak highly enough about these. It removes you from having to get the Cannot Be Frozen affix anywhere in your build. So the Wanderlust Shoes are absolutely effectively one of the best things you can get for leveling. I'm trying to think. The Perandus Blazing Cloth Belt. See, this here is actually a very, very interesting leveling item because it does give you plus 30 to maximum resistances, and I think it gives you stun and block recovery. You don't really worry too much about that early, but this is another one instead of Bated Breath. I actually probably think that this is a better belt. It's close, guys. It's really close because this one doesn't give you any ES. It doesn't give you any. It's not going to give you any ES or life leech. This is a corrupted version. That's why the implicit is 8% increased maximum life. But it gives you just stun and block recovery, and it kind of goes the life route in the hybrid instead of, or I shouldn't say the life route. It kind of goes the route of having attributes. So really, if you guys are struggling and you don't want to spend the 10C on the Astromentus, even a poorly rolled one, you are going to try to get that Perandus Blazing Cloth. You're going to be running the Perandus and the Perandus here, and that is going to be your setup. So all in all, right here invested, before you just socket in any old amulet that you can possibly have and any rings you can possibly get, which, you know, that's kind of unfortunate, but really what it comes down to is you want to try to make sure that you're leveling this as best you can. You're going to get rings that you can equip as early as possible that are going to have your resistances. You are going to be a little bit mana hungry unless you have this Perandus. So Perandus, I can't speak highly enough about this, guys. When you find yourself socketing in the Tabula Rasa, this should be something that you're doing right alongside of it. Now, as far as your linkages go in your Winter Orb setup, you have to have Winter Orb, Ice Sphere, Cast While Channeling. Those are 3 of the most important things that you're going to have. Next up is Power Charge on critical hit and your Greater Multiple Projectiles. Now, the Greater Multiple Projectiles, you're going to use Lesser Multiple Projectiles. Please, please, please do not think you can get away with running a Control Destruction or an Energy Shield Leech gem in this in place of the GMP. If you only have a 5th link, that is going to want to be the GMP or the LMP, one way or another. Other than that, guys, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really has to be gone over. Yeah, your shield you can't equip until you're level 68. The Dodre Scorn is the best helm once you have the resistances elsewhere. You're going to want to socket in that Dodre Scorn, get Bane and the curses up in that helmet. I was at a time using an energy shield base just because that's what I found. And when you find something naturally in between 50s and 60s that looks and appeals to you, this is potentially a good option for you to put in just until you can get to the point of using the Prism Guardian. And yeah, other than that, I don't think there's anything else that I really had too much to say about. We did use a Summon Stone Golem for a little while on our cast when damage taken setup. It'll spawn the golem hits him, and almost always it'll taunt him. So that is really, really good. Now, until you get a better amulet late game, like the one that I'm showcasing here, where it has, you know, the increased maximum energy shield percentage as well as the additional energy shield flat and the intelligence, one thing you may want to consider is actually the presence of Chayula. This is going to be a really, really good item for you if you're running your Tabula Rasa and you're trying to get into mapping because you can't afford your Shavron's wrappings yet. You're still going to be at a position of being hybrid. You don't want to reserve everything, and maybe you've got enough. Maybe you've got enough ES to be able to reserve most of what you need here. And if you do, you're still not going to be. You might want to reserve a bit of your life, but keep in mind it's EHP. but this is something that once you get to mapping, hypothetically, so let's suppose that you get to mapping, this right here is going to give you enough effective HP in the energy shield. Just that right there will give you enough to where you should be able to comfortably map low levels with your tabula rasa and a decent ring of resistances. So now let's just take and let's look through here. Let's see if we can find a good ring that has a lot of resistances on it with level 60 or lower. That's not bad, but we gotta have one that's better, don't we? Lightning, cold, all elemental. And this has all the stats on it. I think we're gonna need the stats, guys. I think we're gonna need the stats, so let's put this in here. So now let's just see if we were in a position where we were trying to start maps and run maps. Right here with this setup, we are running pretty short actually on resistances, and these are something that you're absolutely going to cap. Now keep in mind, until you finish mapping, you still have a 30% debuff. So with all of this budget gear, I don't know if I can actually call Presence of Chayula budget. I don't really think I probably can. But really, guys, you are going to want something to prevent chaos resistance going through if you can't afford the Chevron's wrappings. So, you know, try to figure that out as best you can. Who knows, maybe a presence will be a little bit cheaper, especially if you get one with a low roll to attributes. But again, I mean, don't be shy about just using an Astromentus at that point. You are going to have some chaos getting through. Don't run maps with chaos bosses, or especially don't run maps that have the chaos node. Now with that said, while you're mapping, you may actually want to do the reduce chaos damage over time on caustic ground, and then you probably don't have to worry about it as much. So let's just suppose that this is your beginner setup. You're going to pick these up as you go, and that is going to be your setup. Now obviously once you get to mapping, you're going to want to have your Dodre Scorn, equip your Bane. We still don't know whether Bane is going to scale with the curses, so like it works like cast when damage, so like you have to level it up. When it levels up, you get the additional level of the curses. That's what we're hoping for. In your helmet, you are going to socket your projectile weakness up here. We don't need the Warlord's Mark anymore, so because of that, being that we don't need the Warlord's Mark, you're going to socket in your Frostbite in here, and then Bane's going to go in right here. Okay, so you're going to have a 3-link up there, and you're going to probably want to have your Flame Dash up in the helmet, I think is what I was going for, or something like that. I have it all in the path of building, but basically your early mapping is going to be pretty simple, and then your Tabula Rasa, so the Chevron's wrappings, ignore that. You're going to be using a Tabula until you can farm yourself with Chevrons. So this is like the biggest piece, guys, that really is required for the build to work. That's expensive. The Prism Guardian, you know, I don't know. I actually got a lot of people to catch on to this build. It's had a lot more traffic than what I thought it was going to. So these might actually be kind of expensive this league. I hope for everybody's sake they're not, because they're a really nice shield, and they provide a lot of resistances. So that that implicit you're seeing is a corrupted implicit. In this season, unfortunately, we are going to want the AoE and aura gems for sure instead of duration, and that is a very expensive shield. I am not even sure I'm going to be able to afford that early in the league. It depends on how fast I can run and if I can get there, but I seriously doubt it, unless I can corrupt my own, so we'll see. But moral of the story, you are going to want the Prism Guardian shield. That is absolutely a requirement for being able to reserve your life down, and then once you're reserving your life down, it does get a lot tougher. Now we don't need the Enlightened support this league. We did take that out, so the Enlightened 4 support is not that big of a deal. When I was running this earlier, I actually, like early in the league, I was running it with an Empower support and then my 2 gems, and that was getting me to the low life status. You only want to take Pain Attunement, which is right here. This is a massive buff to you, and you're going to be taking that as early as you can once you're in league, right? So once you're there, you're going to take it absolutely as early as you possibly can. You're going to try to make it so that it is, you know, of a more multiplier that you can take once you get to mapping. But at the end of the day, you're really looking at a situation where you don't want to reserve too much of this life down until you do get your Chevron's wrappings. And it is not a bad idea, guys, to be able to get a Chevron's wrappings and then be able to make yourself a 5-link. There's a prophecy, I believe it's called Jeweler's Touch. I think that's correct, that you can typically buy. It's not too bad. It's normally between 10 and I don't know, 10 and 30 chaos to be able to get a 5-link. And then what you do is you just run everything minus a control destruction, and that will get you through a bulk majority of the maps. And you're going to really at that point be focusing on your other gear, trying to get your other gear updated, trying to get what you need to get your resistances on your boots, swap those out. Your helmet, you're going to probably stick with the Dodre Scorn for a very long time. Don't worry about leveling up the Kalissa's Gray Samic gloves. Those are going to stick for a long time. And actually, I said you're going to actually put the Bane and Curses and stuff up in the helmet. I lied. You're totally putting those down in the gloves, because you want that faster casting both on Bane and on your Flame Dash. So these are going to be the recommended unique that you're going to level with. And obviously I don't have the correct color variation of this, but those are going to be where you're putting it, unless you want the additional effectiveness of the curses, which you probably will. Oh man, there's so much to think about. Anyway, you'll probably have Bane up here. I lied. You'll still probably have Bane up here with Frostbite and Projectile Weakness. As far as the Astromentus, if you're still farming on a Tabula and you find it comfortable to be able to just have Chaos Resistance right here, and you can get your attributes elsewhere, like on a ring, then and suppose this was a nice white Tabula Rasa, then at that point you're probably in pretty good shape to do maps. I mean, guys, this is pretty damn good, and you're going to pick up wands that are better than this Life Sprig, and then eventually you're going to be able to pull off talking someone into giving you the increased damage per power charge. Here again, guys, I think these mods are going to be more popular. I never thought I'd have as much traction on this build, especially for a league starter. Now, I do need to mention that one of the huge mechanics, guys, that has to work out for us to be able to make this build feel really, really safe, you are getting rid of part of your effective HP pool when you do take and reserve down all of this mana for this Aura Bot kind of style of play. And that's going to be something you're going to have to focus on in the passive trees too. It's going to take you a while to be able to run all the auras that we are running. You're probably honestly going to get Aspect of the Spider last. If you're in hardcore, you're definitely going to be getting your protective auras first. But anyway, you do want to get Aspect on the Spider on your gear somewhere. I do like Darkness Enthroned as a build, as just a build staple. I mean, honestly, you can use Bated Breath, you can use the Perandus Blazon, and last season, the reason we ran Doriani's Invitation was specifically because it had the strength stats, and then it had 5 relevant stats, plus it had cold damage leached his life. Well, with Ghost Reaver, that's pretty damn important and something that we really need. But when we don't have Ghost Reaver, when we have Energy Shield being leached as life, which you may actually argue that right here instead of Control Destruction, even if the damage doesn't say that endgame Control Destruction is better, or even if Control Destruction is better endgame, that ES leeches life may be absolutely instrumental to you being able to level comfortably, especially on a Tabula Rasa. So because of that, when you're at level 68 and you've got your Tabula right here and you farm that in the Blood Aqueducts and you farm Syndicate while you were there, okay, you may actually want to have the ES leached here. That relieves it from having to be either on your amulet or your belt. That solves a leveling problem that we had this last league. It was incredibly hard, guys. I was so frustrated because I was like, all right, I've got Ghost Reaver, but how do I get leech? Like, where do I actually get leech from? So I had to put it on my belt, or I had to put it on my necklace. We don't really have to do that, guys. So like, legitimately, if you really want to, you know, take that out, you don't need that. Put in a Darkness Enthroned. Try to get some flat cold dispels. Try to get some flat multi dispels, something like that. Get an ES or life, just something that's decent. Let me see if I have any decent gems that I could be talking about. Okay, so these are all the gems that I cut out, and obviously they're not too bad. Where's the bad stuff? I swear I had bad jewels. Yeah, that's not a good jewel for this build. Anyway, there are bad jewels which basically have life and an energy shield. Energy shield is what you're going to scale once you get to the actual play there. So yeah, I think that answers your questions. You're then going to get the Wise Oaken. You are not going to be using a sulfur flask. You're going to be using a life flask right here. You want a divine life flask of staunching. Staunching is probably going to be our biggest detrimental downfall this league, especially if you're leveling with Wanderlust, which means that you can't be frozen. Other items that aren't really leveling, but they are quality of life, I've got to once again point to the Brine Crown. The Brine Crown is an absolutely fantastic, very, 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 very safe way to be able to get into this league. It is going to help you with that cold resistance, so your Wise Oak is going to be more effective because you need to make sure your cold res is always the highest res when you're playing this build. Unlike last build where we had to balance that fire res and we had to get that in there, you don't need it. And then eventually, as soon as you're in a good position to be able to upgrade, you are going to be able to get that Dying Sun in there. The Dying Sun is going to give you additional projectiles. It's going to be absolutely sweet. And then you're going to replace your life flask as soon as you're reserving down your life. No longer keep a life flask. If you happen to die, you'll learn your lesson. You'll learn how not to die. You'll learn not to reserve and be so greedy. And you're going to probably have a Quicksilver flask of, I would say probably a Quicksilver flask of adrenaline is what you really want. You could put in anything, you know, here that you really want, but that's what you're going to end up doing. And then, yeah, now you're starting to get into like early budget endgame. Okay, like that's where your budget endgame is. Then you're going to obviously replace your Chavron's wrappings. Once you have your Chav's wrappings, you're going to take out your presence of Chayula. That's not going to be as good as a better amulet that is going to give you stats, some damage, and then a bunch of energy shield. Strength and dex, guys. That is the base you are looking for on this build. I found this amulet and I was crushed because it was strength and int. Don't get me wrong, intelligence is really good for energy shield, but when you're really looking at those early levels, guys, you gotta get those stats. You gotta get that strength and dex because it is really, really hard. Look for amulets that are on either a Jade base or an Amber base so that you can try to get the crit multi, the energy shield, everything you need. Again, you don't need cold damage leech's life, especially if for the time being you're going to be leveling with the energy shield leech. That's going to be just fine for you. This is probably what you're going to want. Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, or alternatively, I very much like the Experimenters instead of the Alchemists. I feel like the Experimenters gives me a longer run time before I have to stop and channel spells, and when I'm running through levels or when I'm running through maps, I really don't want to have to stop very often, especially leveling. Leveling, you're running past everything. And then, yeah, you're not going to get this beautiful wand. You're not going to get that right away. But really, you're just literally looking for buffs to spells. You're looking for flat cold damage to spells, spell damage. You definitely want the spell damage mod here. You could get the penetration mod on the wand or whatever like that. You're looking for any type of critical scaling, specifically multiplier is a really good one. If you get other types of damage to spells, it's not that they're bad, it's just that because we're running Hatred and we're running Herald of Ice in this build, we're not running any other damage types. So anytime you convert, it's still damage to spells, so it's not bad, so you can look at that as flat damage, but at the same time, we're not really scaling bulk elemental damage, we're specifically scaling cold damage in this. And then eventually you're going to pick up that Elder Wand with that sweet increased damage per power charge, and you're going to try to get a 2-stat wand with 2 suffixes and an open suffix. That's really what you need, guys. You need 2 suffixes and an open suffix. You're going to, 2 suffixes and an open prefix. So only the 2 suffixes that we need, and then an open prefix. Then you're going to craft on, and then, you know, you're going to do your meta mod crafting. Which I can explain in another video. I do want to run you guys through what the passive tree is going to look like, but unfortunately, this passive tree right here is the one in standard, so because of that, I am going to run you through on my path of building, which I don't even have open yet. This shows you how prepared I was. Hold on one second for me, guys. I'm going to get that up for you. Alright, so I do think, I hope I went through this enough, but basically you are looking at your endgame setup costing you pretty simple to get 2 maps, and then it's really after you get to maps that you're going to really start focusing and trying to farm the Chevron's wrappings. You can actually farm this yourself. It is absolutely possible to farm a Chevron's wrappings. It's a tier 11 map. You can farm it with either a hybrid build or alternatively with the ES Leech. I have a great hope that with the presence of Chayula, you should be able to be deathless through that tier 11, or as much as possible. You shouldn't be too squishy. This is the hardest part of the build, guys, is actually getting to the point where you can equip the Chevrons, because it is such a big item. It is 3x, 3.5x. Even at the start of the league, it's going to be really expensive to get your 6 link, but you are going to try to get into a 5 link as quickly as possible. Now, with that in mind, if you spend smart and you make sure that you have your Kalissa's Grace gloves and you just keep those, they're going to be super good, guys. I mean, you look at the gloves, 128 ES, so just look at my energy shield right now. How much does it go up when I equip the Sorcerer gloves with 162? Like, this is a minimal increase, guys. You want your Kalissa's Grace gloves. Those are going to be good. Your Dodre's Scorn is going to be your budget helm after you get done with the Gold Rim. This is going to provide you significant damage with the Bane and the Curses. The Prism Guardian isn't going to cost you much, I don't think. But like I said, because shield casters are back in, and because people have noticed my build is actually half decent, I have no idea if these are going to go up. I would take it as an honor if I got these to go up. And then as far as shoes goes, use a Wanderlust, but you are going to replace those. Those are going to be one of the first things you replace with a high ES shoe. These are nice for the Cannot Be Frozen, but other than that, they're terrible. The Piranda Signet is literally good up until you drop a Chevron's. It gives you an additional energy shield because you get intelligence for each unique item you have equipped. You actually have quite a few. And then it does give you additional experience games, so you're going to be leveling faster into those levels. Levels count for a lot, guys. We don't care really about the scrolls after like the first, I don't know, 3 days of League. I guess you're going to, you know, wish that it wasn't dropping so many. But yeah, the mana and the mana reservation is absolutely essential until you can start locking down Clarity. And the mana regeneration rate and the maximum mana, you're actually probably going to be running it without Clarity, and I will go over that in my path of building right now. So the skills, as yeah, this is the wrong build. All right. So as I've said in previous videos, the skills have changed up significantly this league because we got some better stuff. It is possible, Controlled Destruction, we are going to end up leveling with the Energy Shield Leech. That is an incredibly strong gem. I don't think it's going to be as strong endgame as Controlled Destruction, but I definitely think that it is a huge, huge, huge quality of life when we are leveling. In your weapon, you're still going to be running Arctic Armor, Enlighten, and Blood Magic on it. You're going to want an Enlighten level 3 here. That's very important. And then in your helmet, you're truthfully looking at a position. I'm sorry, do I have this in the helmet? I have this in weapon 2. So this is in the shield. So in the shield, you're going to be running your Hatred, okay? You're going to probably be ignoring Clarity while you have the Pirandus equipped and while your Tabula is there. So just have that leveling as a side, but I don't know if you're going to want to activate that or not because I don't know how much you're going to want to lock down your life. And then Discipline. Discipline and Hatred are the two biggest auras that you're going to want to be running on your life, and you're probably actually truthfully not going to be running Arctic Armor on your life. Right away you're going to be running Arctic Armor on your mana, and you're going to be running Hatred and Discipline on your life pool in your shield. So that's not really all that bad of a thing, guys. You know, honestly, the auras that you're going to get down here, so this is going to be a Zealotry. You're going to have Zealotry that you can turn on, and you're going to have a Herald Device that you can turn on. But truthfully, I don't think you're going to need Zealotry and Herald Device until you're really trying to push that Shaper DPS. I'm going to remember all of this, lol. You going to be doing this build as a League starter also? Yes, I am, and I'm going to be running it in League, and I'm going to be streaming. I'm sorry, guys. I was so focused on going through the build, I wasn't paying attention to chat. Yeah, let me go ahead and pop out chat here so it's a little closer to my screen, and then I'll actually see when you guys chat me. Okay, and the second thing, I am going to be posting this whole entire build guide up on YouTube, and I'm going to be having timestamps so that you guys can actually go back and you can be like, what was that shit he said about the gems, and what was that shit he said about the jewels or the amulets? I should have actually broken it down by slot. Maybe, hell, I might even re-record it and break it by slot. But anyway, I'm going to be posting this so you'll have it as a reference tomorrow. But yeah, so your gloves, basically, what you have in your gloves. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I of course would not expect anyone to remember 40 minutes of random rambling. But you're gonna only be picking one aura or another. You're definitely not gonna be picking both auras to run. I don't think you'll have the life or the energy shield to be able to do this. Now, with your life up here in the shield being reserved down, you will look over here and you guys can see that you do have a healthy amount of life left over. So if that chaos damage does sneak back in, you've got 700 life pool to be able to kind of buff that and make it better. And as long as you're running, you know, a higher life until you're comfortable locking down more of your life, you are going to actually want to, you're definitely going to want to be basically taking, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm really tired and I'm talking really fast. Until you actually take your life down lower, you're going to probably want to be socketing in a life flask in place of this Dying Sun until you can afford the Dying Sun. So there are some expensive components, guys. Like, I'm not trying to pretend this build can be, you know, had for less than 5x, because the chest alone is more than that, and it is a required item, and you're not going to get around that. The Dying Sun, I consider it to be a required item to do Shaper, but you certainly should not prioritize it. That additional damage is not going to really be noticed until you get up in red tier maps. I don't think you'll even have that. It's more important to have the 6 link. So yeah, other than that, you're going to lock down, like I was saying. You're going to take your Winter Orb and Ice Spirit. You might replace a Control Destruction, but that's good to go. You might be running your Arctic Armor on your mana. And obviously right now I've got all of my auras active, so that's not good. You're going to have the Discipline and the Hatred both up in your shield. You will have to judge whether or not Clarity is important, and I think it's going to have a lot to do on whether you have equipped the Paranda Signet. Okay, and then being that it's going to have a lot to do with whether you've equipped that, you're going to have to make a judgment call on whether it's worth it to lock down another 10% damage. It probably will be. Truthfully, it most likely will be. Keep in mind that the Vol Righteous Fire, as soon as we get gem links, I don't need the more damage multiplier to be able to show the DPS, so this is not in the shield. Right? This is literally just trying to give me the stats that the Hatred will be giving me for free for this build. It's giving me just a touch more because we actually get only 19% more spell damage, and Vol Righteous Fire was giving us 22% more. So anyway, delete that out. In your gloves, these again are going to be in your Callista's Grace. These are like a 1 chaos item. They give you faster casting. They give you a ton of energy shield. They give you everything you want. You're going to definitely want your Flame Dash. Ignore Arcane Surge. This is not here. This again was just to give the more multiplier that we're going to be getting in Hatred. So this gave us a 5% more spell damage. And then it did actually help us out a little bit too in another way as well. But one way or another, let's get back to it. So you're going to be running, instead of Hatred, that's going to be a Zealotry. You got Hatred in one and Zealotry in the other. I wish these gems were updated because it's really confusing trying to work through it. And then you've got a Herald Device. You're going to turn that on when you feel like you're very comfortable and you moved enough stuff over to your life to where you can start turning stuff on your mana. And then you are going to want to have the Enhance right here. The faster casting is innately going to be in your gloves, so you can just go ahead and delete that. So this is what that linkage is going to look like. None of these have to be equipped, but because you've got an Enhance in here that you're going to be leveling up as you go, I would try actually pretty hard to be able to get an Enhance going early on and get these links set up in the Callista's Grace gloves. This is how you're going to want to play it. Also, I would recommend scaling the Enhance up to 20 while you're leveling it. That does give you experience faster, so for all of you newbies, on Enhance and Enhance alone, it's not a bad idea to waste some GCPs if you've got the money. Don't do that until you have the rest of it figured out. All right, in your helmet, the Dodre's Scorn is going to be getting the beautiful, I have Stun in here because this is supposed to be Bane, okay, but we don't have the Bane skill gem yet. I knew Stun, nobody would believe that that's Stun, so I knew they would swap that out, so ignore that. That's going to be Bane, Frostbite, and Projectile Weakness. You are going to get that in there with an Enhance. The reason you want Enhance is because we're still not entirely sure whether or not Bane is going to scale with the levels of itself to Frostbite. So the level 20 reveal said that it can only support level 70 gems, okay? Well, Frostbite requires level 70, but as soon as you equip it into a Dodre Scorn, you get 2 additional levels for it, so technically it's a level 22. That requires a level 74 gem. So because of that, you need to watch out for that, because if your curses are not casting, it's because Bane didn't scale. Now, however, because it's specifically level 70, I believe that if you get all of the whole tree to scale, so if I get Bane to scale up, so like for instance, if Bane does have the curse tag, so it will literally get 2 levels from Dodre Scorn. So as soon as Bane gets 2 levels, it should be a 74 requirement, and so should these other 2. That's a tough thing to keep track of, but that's okay. Your boots, this is going to be something that you're absolutely going to get as fast as you can. You're going to want that cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, and increased duration. You're definitely going to want that. And then early on, before you have the Abyssal Jewel Socket, you might want to be running a Golem in here. So you could run the Golem that taunts. He's always the Rock Golem, the Summon Stone Golem. He's always a really good player and a really good friend of ours. You could actually, because we don't know what Frostbomb's going to look like yet, you could be running a Frostbomb. The only thing you want to watch out for with cast when damage taken is this is the gem that you can't level too high. These 2, cast when damage taken, don't level these over. I've got them set at 4 and 6. That's where I'm comfortable at. And that specifically is geared because you see this tag right over here that says requires level 44. And then it also says down at the bottom, it says in the first mod, it says this gem can only support skill gems requiring level 44 or lower. So with Immortal Call, you'll notice that it has a requirement level of level 44. If I bump this up actually to level 7 and it's at a level 46, it will no longer cast. So with Frostbomb, you have to make sure you don't, or like Frostbomb, Cold Snap, whatever you want to level in here, you have to make sure that whatever it is you're dropping with this, whether it's anything else, I mean, hell, you could even drop, instead of having both your curses on Bane, which that would be dumb, but you could hypothetically drop a curse in here, you could drop a Golem in here, but one way or another, whatever gem goes into the cast when damage taken setup, if you want it to automatically cast when you take a hit, you are going to want to level that up to exactly the level of cast when damage taken supporting it. So in this case it's 44. You're going to look at the gem, and you can even do this in game. You can see it. You can see that it says requires level 70. Okay, so this right here is requires level yeah, let's just do this. So basically the cast when damage taken supports, it's a level 44, and the Immortal Call supported is a level 44. The increased duration, I know that says level 70, that actually doesn't matter because the only thing this is supporting is Immortal Call. I know it's confusing, but basically Immortal Call is the skill that needs to be cast. Cast when damage taken is going to cast it. As soon as it is cast, it is supported by increased duration, so the increased duration you go as high as you want to. I think I'm going to do a freezing pulse is what my primary skill is going to be. Alright, so other than that, we have the aspect of the spider. You're going to get that later. This is a great quality of life. If you guys find that the enemies are getting up on you way too fast, and you need to try to basically make sure that they're not hitting you so hard and really not getting to you so fast, aspect of the spider does buff your damage and it slows your enemies, and that is so freaking sweet. It's a good quality of life, but it is going to cost you probably 50 C to 100 C to be able to get this on at the start of the league. I don't necessarily know what, but it is going to cost you a pretty penny to be able to get that on gems. I would put that on definitely in after you get your Chevron's wrappings. I certainly had the Chevron wrappings first. Guys, a lot of these changes that I'm trying to talk about that you're making them later as you need them. So like if I'm getting hit, I'm feeling really vulnerable, I'm going to then get the aspect sooner. I don't think with the recent patches to Energy Shield Leech, this is going to be a problem for you. So in the tree, let's talk about how we're going to go in the tree. Unlike last league, this is absolutely a league where you are going to have to get significantly more, just in general, you're going to have to get more aura nodes. All of the aura nodes that give you reduced mana reservation is going to have to come pretty damn early, or you're not going to be able to play with the auras. So you're actually going to be bypassing a few things on the tree as you're going. Now, right now I have it leveled to a level 95, but just for the sake of saying we're leveling brand new here, we're going to copy this, and I'm going to actually try to, yeah, I'm gonna try to show you what I do for new leveling. Okay, so new leveling. So this is going to be the tree that we've got. So let's take out everything we technically don't need while leveling, okay? We could take that out because we don't need that. These are actually going to be over here because we're going to try to get as much energy shield and life on the same node as possible. The pain attunement, again, you only take this after you feel you have enough energy shield to really make it worthwhile, okay? Alright, other than that, you don't really need these Throat Seeker critical strike multiplier spells. The spell is going to be enough. You are going to want the energy shield up top as much as you can, but I think for the sake of this build, we are going to delete that. The shield nodes are really, really good right here. You have to come here for the aura nodes. That's very important. We're going to just take off a bunch of the damage nodes right here. Now, the casting with the shields, the spells with the shields, we're going to try to get... Let's try to get a level 68 tree. How about that? It's such a weird looking tree. I've never seen something like it. See, I feel like the shield nodes are really, really good, and I feel like this cluster over here is really good. I do feel like we can delete that without deleting too much damage. So we're at 74. You have to have the extra curse. And the Watcher's Eye gives you so much with Hatred and Clarity, but the Watcher's Eye, I think you're going to have to get after your Shavron's Wrappings. And then your crit multiplier right there. Alright, there we go. We did it, guys. We did it. Alright, so here is the scoop. If you are able to get a Shavron's Wrappings, okay, so suppose, I wish we could actually get everything else like down to a level where it's even crappier gear than what I have here. But basically, I think the only thing we want to take off here is Aspect of the Spider, because we won't be able to afford to get that just yet. So this is your level 68 tree, guys. You want to make sure you run the Eternal Labyrinth. That is very, very important. You should have no problem in the Eternal Labyrinth. I certainly didn't struggle, and I did it at 65. So you're good. You're good in the labyrinths. Just make sure you're not squishy and you feel good about it. Then again, I've run labyrinths quite a bit and quite enjoy them. So what you'll notice about our level 68 tree is, first off, we've got reduced aura. Basically, we've got reduced aura reservation down here at the bottom of the tree. We've got reduced aura generation up here at the top of the tree. And then we've got reduced aura generation over here, because you're basically playing an aura bot for yourself. Okay, so because of that, you really need that. Now, all of this critical damage and critical multiplier and everything over here this is all something you can add right at level 68. So I would say the power generations, I mean the power charges for that matter, they do matter. They make a difference. They make a significant difference. But at the same time, they're not absolutely essential for the build, for the whole entire, you know, I don't know. I don't think of the power charges as being like absolutely an essential piece. And so, like, hypothetically, you actually might argue that instead of getting the power charge, you're going to take 4 nodes right there. No, you're not. You're not going to do that. That doesn't make sense, because that's only saving you 5. No, I like it. I like it how it is. I think it's good to path through power charge nodes. I'm trying to think of anything else that you're going to really be missing. I mean, obviously you're going to be scaling damage, but I really don't feel like you're going to need it until you get into maps. And then all of a sudden, once you're in maps, you're going to be like, oh shit, I need more damage. Okay, well, take off your energy shield and life down here in this wield. So you may have to respec that a bit. If you're wanting to focus more on energy shield once you get your shavs, you're going to go back to the arcane focus. But yeah, ultimately, you do have to change the tree around just a bit to be able to get these additional nodes. And then right here, this is level 68, so let's reduce this to level 68. And then, is this our default tree? We're supposed to be doing our... dang it, we were supposed to be doing our new leveling, so I'll have to redo this. But anyway, that's the tree, guys. That's what it's going to look like. You're going to definitely come up through the energy shield nodes here. That's going to give you a lot of protection right here early. Energy shield is a very, very good thing to have, especially early in the game. You are going to come over to these nodes over here. You're not going to take Pain Attunement. You're going to skip that. And, like, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be tough right away to get a hold of some damage. You're probably going to want to come into this jewel slot and be able to socket in some kind of a flat damage to your spell. And then that's going to be like a freezing pulse or something like that. I don't know if if I were you, I don't know if I'd want to take Throat Seeker. It does do a lot of extra damage for you. It's probably something you're going to want. You'll pick up the Essence Surge. I do think that all of these extra nodes right here, I didn't do this very well. I really should have actually done this better. Because you don't actually need, you really just need the 4% mana reduction right now. And hypothetically, this right here, I mean, that could come at that level, but yeah. So let's see here. I'm going to put some nodes back in the tree here, and I think I have the room now. So we are at level 74 technically. That's such a bummer. Yeah, it's kind of tough to get the 68 tree and get it exactly how you want, but you can delete the energy shield here. Actually, I would delete the power charge right there. This is a really good node, and it's actually better than Throat Seeker, so why don't we take that? But as you're scaling it, the hardest part about this, guys, is your auras are actually going to scale your damage better than just about anything. So the more auras you can roll with, the better. They have more damage on them. Like, your auras have a more damage multiplier. It's like getting a Vol Righteous Fire. So if you can run Zealotry and Hatred, and if you can run Zealotry and Hatred and what the hell is it called? Zealotry, Hatred, and Discipline, you're gonna be cooking with peanut oil. Like, you've got damage, and so a lot of the damage isn't even coming from your tree. So don't worry too much about that, guys. Like, you're gonna get your damage. But other than that, I mean, you look at this. You know, we're at a 71. Dang it! I was really hoping we could get less than that. Let's suppose we took off these energy shield nodes. Alright, so this is your level 68. So my current build is showing that without Aspect of the Spider, with all the changes that I have in here and all the items I have in here. Now granted, I do have some kind of nicer things, but I'm not running my Watcher's Eye. I do have the Dying Sun, and you've seen the gear before. So if you guys can get to this point with level 68, you'll be able to lock down your life and reserve your life, and you'll be able to have an energy shield of about 7k. That's insane. I mean, granted, that's a lot of gearing for level 68, because you're going to probably be level 74 to 75 when you get your Shav's wrappings. That's my goal with it, but you're going to be good to go. As far as up here in this node tree, if you're going to want to get the Wicked Ward first, I would then come down to the Void Beacon. Then I would come up to the Vile Bastion, and then after that you're going to get the extra power charge over here in Forbidden Power. So that's the order of that I've got for you. I think that's how I would do it this season. And I think that's all there is to it. Anybody have any suggestions of anything else you have questions about or want to see? Anything at all? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No? Alright, guys. Well, I think then in that case we are good to go. I wish you the best of luck. I want you guys to know that, like, even with a level 68 tree and showing us at level 68, as long as we get a little bit of stuff on our gearing, and as long as we gear some nice stuff, we should actually be able to get pretty far into League before we really have to spend a significant amount of money. The Dodre Scorn is actually going to deal more damage than what it's getting credit for in the Path of Building. I think I'm going to have to do that. I'm going to have to update the leveling Path of Building, and I'll update it with leveling trees for you guys so that you have that. And hopefully you guys can basically get done with that. So, all right. Well, that is everything, guys. Oh, yes, please. Toby DeLaser. All right. Yeah. For sure. I'm going to try to get that done tonight. That's a tall order. I got to walk a dog. Shoot. I was really hoping to get the gems first, but yes, I will try to at least get the passive trees updated. The gems, I don't know if I'm going to get a gem table for you guys or not. I definitely don't know. But other than that, I think I went through everything you really need to know to get there. And I think that's everything I'm going to do. We will talk to you guys later, and I hope you guys have yourselves an absolutely fantastic, phenomenal evening the night before launch. And all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a Knightking. All right, guys, that was my best impression of a creepy reading of a creepy Christmas story. But other than that, guys, I think I went over everything. I love you guys. Mwah! It was really fun doing the guide for you, and I'm really stoked that so many people are checking out this build and trying to figure out how they can play it. We will talk to you guys later. Peace.